Welcome to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. So, you know what day it is. It's Wednesday. That means it is the day where I answer your questions. It is Ask Me Anything, where literally I will answer any question that you send, as long as it's, not something totally disgusting. But I, a couple of weeks ago, answered the question, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Tootsie Pop? And the person that asked that question, they were actually surprised that I answered the question. They said, I just sent this to you as a joke to see if you literally would answer anything. And yes, as long as it is, like I said, as long as it's not something totally disgusting, then yes, I will answer any question. And so far, I have not actually had to reject any questions, so that's good. Good job, audience. So the questions this week, I've actually got a couple of fairly interesting questions. The first question is, a while ago, I heard that there was going to be a Bitcoin ETF. Any idea when it will hit the market, and what do you think about it? So I did some quick research to find out about a ETF, and more specifically the Bitcoin ETF. And there's an article from late last year from Investopedia that says why the Winklevoss twins' new Bitcoin ETF matters. And an ETF, that's a term that I had heard before, but I was not entirely positive what it meant. It is an exchange-traded fund. So let me just go over this real quick to give some information about the Bitcoin ETF. The article here says the Winklevoss Bitcoin Trust currently moving towards regulatory approval. And again, this was current as of last year. I believe they have since gained that approval. And according to an article from earlier this year that I am also going to reference, it appears as though they actually have the approval and that it will be hitting the market soon-ish, maybe. I'll get into that momentarily, but first let me tell you about the ETF. They were hoping to have approval by the end of 2014, and it will be a Bitcoin ETF, exchange-traded fund, with each share representing an amount of Bitcoin held by the trust. Currently, such an investment vehicle is only available to wealthy investors through funds like the Bitcoin Investment Trust. The Winklevoss ETF will allow people with a brokerage account to invest in Bitcoin without having to worry about the challenges of buying, storing, and safekeeping Bitcoin. Proposed in 2013, the Winklevoss Bitcoin Trust was the first Bitcoin ETF to be filed with the Securities and Exchange Commission, but the Bitcoin Investment Trust announced plans in early 2014 to release an over-the-counter Bitcoin ETF. The latter is taking a different regulatory approach that does not require approval from the SEC and has projected a launch in the fourth quarter of 2014. So, again, this article was from late last year, and it appears as though there might already be a Bitcoin ETF that is OTC instead of the Winklevoss Bitcoin ETF that is going to wind up being on NASDAQ. What is an ETF? And this is something, again, it's a term that I had heard, and just saying exchange-traded fund, that doesn't really explain what an ETF is. So allow me to read. ETF is exchange-traded fund and is an investment fund that tracks an index, specific asset, or basket of assets. Many aspects of the market are covered by ETFs. First introduced in 1989, ETFs are similar to index funds, but unlike index funds, ETFs can be bought and sold throughout the day on the stock exchange. They have low management fees, sometimes as low as 0.04%. And you might recall that the Winklevoss twins were involved in the early days of Facebook. They made the claim that Facebook was their idea, and, well, they were eventually awarded $20 million in cash and $45 million in Facebook stock in February 2008. They were also on the Olympic rowing team in the 2008 Olympics in Beijing, and they went to Oxford University's Business School in the United Kingdom. They graduated in 2010 and then became venture capitalists. A claim in April 2013 was that they owned 1% of all Bitcoins in existence, although I don't know if that is an accurate claim right now. The article here from Investopedia also talks about the motivation for filing the Bitcoin ETF, and according to a filing with the SEC, they described shares of the Bitcoin ETF to be easily accessible and cost-efficient by offering a product that can be bought on an exchange. The Winklevoss Bitcoin Trust will allow investors to avoid the process of purchasing Bitcoin on exchanges and having to handle storage. So basically, the Winklevoss twins want to turn Bitcoin into an actual stock-like product. And I've heard people try to describe Bitcoin as a stock. However, unlike a stock, it's something that you can actually wind up spending. If I owned a share of Coca-Cola, I could not go down to a local store and say, I will give you 0.0174% of my share of Coca-Cola, and you give me X. Whether it be a drink, a meal, whatever. Whatever the equivalent amount of funds would be to that percentage. I can't do that with a stock. And I think the reason people try to say that Bitcoin is like a stock is that you buy it pretty much from prices set on an exchange. But at the same time, you buy silver and gold based on the prices that are set on exchanges. But nobody tries to say silver and gold are like stocks. Unless, of course, you're buying the paper silver, paper gold, which means somebody else is handling it for you. And that silver exists, and here's your receipt, and you just have to trust them. And that's one thing that with the ETF is you have to trust them that the Bitcoin is going to be there, right? So let's skip over here to the article from Money Morning that talks about the first Bitcoin ETF offers an easy way to profit from virtual currency. The first Bitcoin ETF for quote-unquote ordinary investors is almost here, and this was March, so this was about a month ago. So not sure if it's launched yet. Let's delve into this, find out if this talks about when it will be available, and then I will sort of give you my thoughts on why a Bitcoin ETF might not be the best thing in the world. There's more when we come back on Peace, Love, W Radio. When her plush and comfy life suddenly and unexpectedly fell apart, Brooke and her dog Cloud set out to defy the odds. If this is a man's world, as they say, living on the streets is no place for a young woman. One day she awoke in the redwood forest and realized she had become a hobo, and would ultimately come to know exactly what it means to survive. How to Be a Hobo by Brooke Willett is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. Coinbase is a simple and secure online Bitcoin wallet for sending, receiving, and storing Bitcoin. Coinbase also allows you to buy and sell Bitcoin using a bank account or use their tools to accept Bitcoin as a merchant. Opening a wallet is quick and easy, and for merchants, there are no transaction fees on the first $1 million worth of transactions. Get started at coinbase.fppradio.com. You can support FPP Radio by joining the Fans program. Fans are friends, allies, and Numery supporters. Fans help FPP afford to produce more original content. You can join the Fans program for as little as $3 per month or any amount of Bitcoin per month, thanks to the recurring payment options provided by Coinbase. To learn more or to join the Fans program, visit fans.fppradio.com. That's FANS.fppradio.com. Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. Online at fppradio.com. Before I get back into discussing the Bitcoin ETF and when it will possibly be available over the counter or on NASDAQ and why I think it might not be such a good thing, I want to make sure that I tell you about something that I do think is a good thing, and that would be gold and silver. Specifically, gold and silver from Roberts and Roberts Brokerage. For over 35 years, Roberts and Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling your investment-grade precious metals. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts and Roberts Brokerage today for knowledgeable advice on investing and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 850-478-5270 or visit them online at rrbi.co. That's rrbi.co. So the article here from Money Morning, which is from last month, and this is actually the most recent article that I was able to find about the Bitcoin ETF, says that it's almost here. The Bitcoin Investment Trust got approval last week, it says, so that would be late February, from the Financial Industry Regulation Authority, or FINRA, to sell its shares on the OTC market, that meaning over the counter, where you don't necessarily have to go to NASDAQ or New York Stock Exchange or Chicago Stock Exchange, Amex, one of the things like that. You can just go to your local stockbroker guy that handles things for you and say, yeah, I want to buy some of this, and he makes it happen. They put that it should start within the next couple of weeks, so maybe it's already launched. I was not able to find anything specifying that it has or when it will, but this article from March said within a couple of weeks, which leads me to believe if it's not already available OTC, it will be soon. They write that it is currently listed on the OTC market pink sheets under a temporary symbol, BTCV, but will have a permanent ticker of OTC MKTS:GBTC. And BTC would be as in Bitcoin. The fund gives investors a way to invest in Bitcoin without going through the trouble of buying Bitcoin and worrying about having a secure place to store them, they write. It marks another step forward in Bitcoin's long march to mass adoption. But is that really mass adoption if people are not actually buying and storing and using Bitcoin? If they're looking at Bitcoin as something similar to, say, a share of Coca-Cola or a share of the Walt Disney Corporation, where it's something neat to have. Oh, look, I have a single share of Coca-Cola. But you can't use that single share to do any of the things that make Bitcoin Bitcoin. Bitcoin is Bitcoin. Well, one, because they came up with the name, but when I say that, Bitcoin is Bitcoin, what I'm meaning is Bitcoin is the thing that it is. It is a virtual currency that you have the network that is Bitcoin with a capital B. So everybody running the Bitcoin client is making sure that Bitcoin continues to exist. The miners that are mining the Bitcoin, they're making sure that Bitcoin continues to exist. The people like me, that I'm not running the client, I'm not mining Bitcoin, but I use Bitcoin. I send and receive Bitcoin in exchange for goods and services. Bitcoin is valuable in that way. A share of Coca-Cola is not valuable as a medium of exchange. Bitcoin has value because people accept it as having value and because it's a medium of exchange. It's an entire system. And there are other things that have been, in some ways improved upon and in other ways just copycatted, but there are nearly 400 of what they call altcoins, meaning that it's something that in some kind of way is a derivative of Bitcoin. Now, there are things like NXT that are not necessarily derivatives of Bitcoin, but some of the things that they do, they probably would not be doing had Bitcoin not existed. So, in that way, the ETF is horrible for Bitcoin, and I dare say for all virtual currencies, because Bitcoin is not, at least this Bitcoin ETF is not mass adoption of Bitcoin. It's getting people with money to say, oh, look, I'm in this Bitcoin thing that the young people like. But they're not really investing in Bitcoin as a currency, as a medium of exchange, as a thing of value. They're investing as Bitcoin as an oddity that they can say that they own some of, but they don't really own it. They have a receipt that says that somebody has this for you, but they can't take their one share of Bitcoin ETF to any of the thousands of brick and mortar stores or any of the 50 or 60,000 online stores that take Bitcoin and say, yes, I will send you my Bitcoin ETF and you send me product, please. You can't do that. And then also this turns Bitcoin, instead of a thing of value, a medium of exchange, into something that people play around with like stocks, to where they short sell and long sell and all of these other weird things that people do with stocks that I don't completely understand, but there's a way that you can hope that it loses money and you make money, and it doesn't make sense to me the way that works, but I know it does and people make money doing it. It turns Bitcoin into an oddity on the stock market, in my opinion. So I am not somebody that's really looking forward to Bitcoin ETF, whether it be from the Winklevoss twins or anybody else. And I think that if anything, it's only going to make Bitcoin more of an oddity and seen as some sort of weird, obscure sort of thing. Now, let me move on to the next question that I have. It's actually a two-part question. Can foods be genetically modified to include vaccines for humans? Do you think it is possible that this will happen? And let me begin by prefacing why this question came about. Someone on my Facebook friends list posted a picture from a book. The book is called Daily Science, and it's for 6th graders. And there's a section in here, are genetically modified foods safe to eat? And, well, I actually have a copy of the book, so I'll discuss this and answer the question when we come back on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. The Doublespeak Dictionary by Leslie Starr O'Hara satirizes the marked difference between the ideal of we the people and the reality of we the elite, while offering an insightful glimpse into the clockworks of the totalitarian mind. Ever irreverent, but never irrelevant, the Doublespeak Dictionary serves as a subversive and humorous, but timely reminder that the emperor has no clothes. The Doublespeak Dictionary is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. ExpressCoin is the best choice for buying Bitcoin, Litecoin, Dogecoin, and more. ExpressCoin prides themselves on their customer service, so much so that the back end on the website should allow them to be even more focused on your needs. Get your cryptocurrencies with money order, check, wire transfer, or cash deposit. Get started at expresscoin.fppradio.com. That's expresscoin.fppradio.com. You can support FPP Radio by shopping online. Whether you're looking for t-shirts, precious metals, bitcoins, or books, you'll find that and more at shop.fppradio.com. There's an Amazon shopping iframe built into the website, or you can shop directly from FPP with Bitcoin in the Bitcoin store. Every purchase you make from one of my affiliates at shop.fppradio.com helps fund FPP Radio. That's shop.fppradio.com. Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. Online at fppradio.com. So before I answer the question, well, the question isn't, are genetically modified foods safe to eat? Darryl, you're looking in the wrong spot. The question is, can genetically modified foods be modified to include vaccines for humans? And do you think it is likely that this will happen? Before I answer those questions, I want to tell you about something that is happening and something that you can read. It is Survivor Max. It's a story about an 11-year-old boy named Max who must survive the zombie apocalypse alone in New Hampshire. The first book is out. I believe the second book is on the way. The third book is being written. So it will happen. The third book will happen. The second book will happen. But you can read the first book, or at least the first chapter of the first book, online for free at survivormax.com. But let me tell you why you want to do that. You want to learn about Max. You want to learn about the slow-moving, non-thinking lame brains that swarm his home searching for living flesh. You want to learn how Max applies his Porcupine Freedom Scouts training to not only plan his escape, but prove that he is too smart to die. Look for Survivor Max on Facebook and Amazon, or, like I said, you can read that first chapter for free at survivormax.com. And after you read the first chapter for free, you will want to buy the book from Amazon. That's survivormax.com. So the book here, not Survivor Max, the other book, the Daily Science for 6th grade, there's a chapter in here in week 4 where they discuss, are genetically modified foods safe to eat? And I've pored over this book over the last few days, and they never actually answer the question. But it's because of a screenshot of this book that was posted on Facebook that led a Facebook friend of mine to ask the question, can foods be genetically modified to include vaccines for humans? And do you think it is likely that this will happen? And this question, it's actually something straight from the book where they talk about being able to make vaccines as well as extra vitamins and minerals through genetic modification and put that in the food. And I think that it might be possible. However, I don't think that it will in practice actually work. If they wind up doing some kind of limited test, they will find that it will not work. And here's the reason I say that it will not work, is because the same way with the whole fluoride in the water thing, is you cannot control the dose that someone receives. You can try all you want through food pyramids and food circles and everything else. You can try to persuade people to take the certain dosage of you need to eat 1 potato every day and eat this and eat this. But you have no way of guaranteeing that. Even when doctors prescribe medication to patients, the patients don't always take the medication the way they're supposed to. So they're really, unless the people go into the doctor and the doctor says, here's the medication, and gives you a shot or a big giant horse pill, that's the only way to make sure that the person gets the dosage that you want them to get. So even if they do wind up doing this, and maybe it's possible they've already put some sort of fish gene in certain types of tomatoes to keep the tomatoes from frosting, or rather freezing when there's the frost warnings, and other sorts of weird things that, some of these make absolutely no sense why they're doing this. Like there's some type of goat that got a spider gene put in it so that when you milk the goat, there's a little bit of the silk sort of stuff that would be a spider web normally, but it's not enough of a spider web, silk, goat web thing coming out of the goat to really do anything with. But some scientist was like, yeah, I want to see what happens when I put spider genes in a goat. And maybe they'll be able to, again, like I said, maybe they will be able to put a vaccine in some foods, but I don't know why they would do that, because, well, I know why they would do it, because they want to, it's not about necessarily controlling the population. There are some people that have the theory that, Monsanto wants to control the population of the world. No, they want to control the food supply is what they want to do. That's why they're patenting their seeds. And farmers who live next to a farm where the one farm is using seeds bought from Monsanto, the other farm is using regular heirloom seeds that they bought from some feed store. The farmer who is not using the Monsanto seeds, some of the pollen blows over to his field. That farmer is getting sued by Monsanto for infringing on the patent and copyright and other things of Monsanto. It would be akin to, let's say that you're spray painting the front door of your house. And I'm not talking about with the spray paint cans, but, they've got the thing, it makes painting your house so much easier. And you pour the paint in, and then you hold a button, and then it sprays. So you're doing that on a windy day. Some of the paint from what you're trying to put on your house goes to the neighbor's house. Instead of the neighbor being able to sue you for vandalism, you get to sue the neighbor for infringing on your rights to own the paint. That's what's happening with some of these Monsanto lawsuits. And they're really disgusting, in my opinion, the way they are going about doing this. Is they're using intellectual property to basically claim ownership over various foods and various plants. And there's actually, in this book, there's something in here where they ask about, they ask the 6th graders, what are the biggest benefits and the biggest drawbacks to genetically modified organisms? And allow me to read the answers from the answer key of what they want the children to write for what are the benefits and drawbacks of genetically modified foods. So here they have, this is day 4. Answers will vary, but along these lines. Benefits. Some genetically modified foods can remove pollutants from soil and water, which makes them better for the environment. Drawback. If genetically modified foods introduce new genes to the gene pool, they could cause many species to become extinct. So they're asking the children, are genetically modified foods safe to eat? They never answer the question, but they do say that GMO foods can cause other plants to become extinct. What do you think? Send me questions for next week, ama@fppradio.com. And don't forget, the show's always available, ftpradio.com.